I've spent the last 3 or 4 months eating from the floor. Or technically before the baby was born, off of a yoga ball because we didn't have any kitchen chairs. The reason being that when we moved into this place that we're renting now, and we're about to move into our first actual home, we got the furniture from the dude who was living here before us. He sold it to us for fairly cheap, but the table and chairs were in pretty poor condition. His dog had really had its way with the chairs. So it wasn't too long before we just were like, yeah, we got to throw them out. So because we knew that this move was coming, we were going to be getting our first home, we thought, well, screw it, we might as well just hang on, and we've got one chair that we can make do with in the kitchen, and I'll just eat on the yoga ball. So either we'd eat on the sofa or I'd eat sitting on a rolling yoga ball. Eventually that went down the drain as well, so I was basically just eating stood up. And this is a really weird story, but effectively it's how you start to just take accountability for everything that you've got going on in your life. Because when you can own every single decision that you make, you can start to make decisions much more effectively because you know what you ultimately value when it comes to deciding what path you want to walk down. Most of us aren't fortunate enough to just have it all. We don't have an unlimited supply of money, an unlimited supply of opportunities. And what that means is that you actually have to be kind of selective with what you do. Every decision that you make is going to come with positives and negatives, and it's about learning how to weigh up the positive and negatives to decide which side of the path you want to walk down. Now, if you know exactly what you value, if you know what you truly think is the most important to you, then that's going to allow you to live in alignment with those values, which not only, in my opinion, is a much more fulfilling and happy life, but it also just means that there's not going to be this constant, battle of identity, and there's never going to be any resentment because you know what you're actually aiming for when you can look back in retrospect at those decisions. At this point, with if anyone can tell on my channel, I kind of like watches, and I could have easily bought like a watch that I really, really wanted this year, something quite expensive, and finally have, after years of my online coaching, like not making any money pretty much, and in 2023 being near enough homeless as a result. It would have been nice to kind of splash out a little bit this year, finally enjoy the fruits of my labor. Even my girlfriend, back when she was coaching, she had a few good months where she was able to splash out on herself long before we met. But I've never really been able to enjoy the fruits of my labor from that perspective. I've never been able to actually kind of treat myself because as soon as I started doing okay in coaching, we decided that the way that we wanted to play it was me covering most of the finances at home, and especially now that we've got the little one, even more so in that direction. So I've had to be careful with how I utilize my finances, especially as we look to save up for our first home, all the furniture that we'll need to move in there. The careful decisions around how we use our credit cards to make sure that we can pay everything off for the furniture, etc. It's all literally just decision making. I very easily could have gone down the road of, well, you know what, I've never splashed out on myself, never once treated myself. I'm gonna do that. But even though like I haven't been able to do that at this point, I don't actually resent it that much, even though it's something that I still kind of want to do, because I know that what means the most to me right now is my family. Having a family young, getting that started, that was what really meant the most. So now to be on the path to, providing for them, building the business, and now moving into this home is that next step. It's the sign that I'm actually living in alignment with the things that I ultimately value most. When I look inward and I think, what does the product of my life look like when I get to 70 years old, God willing? When I look back, is there anything that I'm actually gonna resent or regret? And right now I can say no, because every decision that I've made, even down to just saving the money for, when we move home and just eating on the floor, is just down to, okay, what do I value right now? I can't have it all. What sacrifices am I willing to make? And you can just take things from there. So I think that's something that if you don't currently do, when it comes to your decision making, if you constantly find yourself thinking, I should have done that, all should have been different, then you got to ask yourself, what are you really living for? Where do your values align? What are the most important parts of your life that you really want to prioritize? And you always know then when you're faced with a difficult fork in the road, you always know what to aim for, because it's going to be the thing that moves you a step closer in that particular direction that you know is ultimately going to fulfill you the most. So that's just a little one on decision making. The sooner you can do that, the sooner you can start to really take accountability for your own decisions. You can start to understand why you're at the point in life that you're at, and if things need to change, then you very quickly know what direction you need to move into to change them. So many guys join the team and they're almost kind of like clueless as to how they let themselves get so out of shape. So like, well, you're struggling to take accountability for bad active decisions that you've made. Over time, you get so used to making those bad decisions that they become subconscious. You don't even think about it. You're so out of alignment with what you want that you're just making bad decisions without even thinking. And it's only later on when you act in retrospect that you can kind of regret those. But unless something changes now, you're just going to keep making bad decisions. So especially when it comes to even things like, prioritizing finances for coaching, not even just sticking to the diet, but even just in terms of investment, in terms of self-sabotage. Look, what do you really value? That's the question that you always got to ask yourself. When you can do that on a consistent basis, everything that you're doing should really move in line with that. It's that easy.